How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to Switch Point episode 11. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have officially secured a Nintendo Switch 2, and we're very, very excited about it. But man, I feel like we have to kick this one off talking about those pre orders because that was brutal, man. I feel like I went through every stage of, grief, acceptance, denial, everything all in once through this hour and 45-minute period of trying to get it. I mean, I had like 30 tabs open across 4 devices, but we somehow managed to do it. So I'm really happy about that.
Well, you were amongst the lucky.
Yeah, yeah.
Sadly, I did not have the fortitude. I passed within an hour of sitting in a digital line, and
Uh,
I'll just they'll be in stock. This thing's selling gangbusters, so I'll more than likely, like, if they have another round of pre-orders, I'll hit that up. Stuff like that. I'm working on getting one.
yeah. No, dude, I feel it. I mean, it's one of those things, man. I'm sitting here like that thing. I don't remember. I do remember, but I don't remember. I think this was worse than PS5. I think it was better than PS5 because I feel like that the stock, quote unquote, lasted longer. But did it really? Because it felt like that no one could purchase one for like hours. So I feel like it's hard to judge whether or not it was better or worse. But I feel like, at least on my end, my experience ordering the Switch 2 versus the PS5, and I got both on launch day. PS5 was so much easier than this. This was miserable, man. I was at 11 o'clock, so I'm in Central Time. We both are. At 11 o'clock is when they opened, and by 12 o'clock, by the time that came around at midnight, I was like kind of starting to sweat. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna get one, and thankfully it worked out. But yeah, it was brutal, dude. I've seen so many people. I mean, Target, I actually, it's funny. I got 3 orders through at Target where it said order confirmed, thank you. Got the email, literally immediately order canceled. I had my order canceled 3 times at Target, and then I finally managed to get it
Jeez.
at Walmart somehow, some way, dude.
Walmart the goat. I was trying Best Buy and just like legit the app, the site, they just would not work for me for quite a hot minute. Like just click on like a Switch page and just like this
Mm-hmm.
doesn't exist. But I finally got through. Then I was just in the line and I'm like, well, sadly I gotta go into work early.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I just called it quits there. But
Uh, I don't blame you, man. It was
it's how it
brutal.
goes.
Yeah, Best Buy, dude. Best Buy didn't even open. It was like 30 minutes. I remember exactly. I got in at 11:31 in line. I felt like I was like the first one there. No one, Wario, no one had tweeted out the Best Buy was live, and I still had to wait. And my Best Buy never loaded in that entire time throughout from 11:30 to 12:45. I mean, dude, it was nuts, dude. So, congratulations to everyone that was able to get one. I have to say I'm pretty impressed. Unfortunately, Payne, you weren't able to get one, but I will say out of our entire team, which is really grown very big, but we were able to get 4 people to get a Switch 2, which I feel like is pretty good. So I won't complain.
Yeah, that's pretty good odds. And gosh, just Best Buy, bro. You're just reminding me that I kind of have a bone to pick with them.
Oh, really? What happened?
So like, dude, just in general, like I get stuff late from them,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I live within like 30 minutes of one. And like not available for pickup, want shipping? Sure. And then I'll get something like the new Atelier like 2 or 3 days late.
I feel it. I mean,
The
dude.
worst they've ever did me was, so I pre-ordered Stranger of Paradise to get like, their steelbook.
Oh, don't remind me. Don't remind
Dude,
me.
it
I
looks like
missed
that
out on that one.
steelbook was kicked across the floor on the bottom.
Oh,
Like legit scratched. I'm like, oh. And the case was like broken a little on like one of the corners.
I've not had any issue with Best Buy for the most part. I, you know, I really regret you reminding me about that because that's one steelbook I don't have that I really wish I had because it's so sick.
So are we getting Stranger of Paradise on Switch too?
Dude,
We gotta make this Nintendo themed.
I would love Stranger in Paradise on Switch 2. I think that would be amazing. I mean, what? Dude,
They straight
that's
up
such an
should.
underrated game.
It is. Truly. Uh, but guess what? It'd probably be a game key card.
No, oh yeah, it'll be a game key card. And I think that's probably honestly what the bulk of today's episode is going to be about because we talked about in our 4 hour reaction, we talked about a little bit in the a couple episodes previously, but
Yeah, and we
game
had
key
like
cards,
some positivity
we
regarding them
did.
because like there's some good aspects of it, but just recently some things have just been becoming more apparent, and
It's
I
very
think you know
clear.
exactly where to
Yeah,
kick off on there.
yeah. I mean, I think we'll just jump into it. So it's become very clear that every third party developer is just going to be using game key cards for everything. The only ones that we have confirmed that are not game key cards right now are Cyberpunk 2077, which is shocking, by the way. And then also we have the marvelous games like Daemon X Machina, the sequel. I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting what it's called, but Daemon X Machina, the New Rune Factory, Story of Seasons, those are all complete on cart. But everything else is a game key card. And to recap, because there's misinformation out there, there are multiple different physical formats on Switch 2. One of which is the standard game cart, as is on Nintendo Switch. You just slot the card in, you get to play your game. You don't have to worry about downloading anything. The other is game key cards. And we assumed that the goal with these game key cards was to offer a cheaper entry into the physical market for, publishers due to the increased costs of these new cards, but also to kind of remove, and Payne, we've talked about this, all those Nintendo Switch games that either came with like the download code in box or like, download required. This was the solution. Okay, everything's lumped under game key card, and that was it. And, I think you and I had hope of like, this is actually a good way to streamline the process. You're still going to be able to sell off the game. It's, it's not tied to your account. It's a good thing. And then pre-orders opened and we learned that, Sega, every single game is a game key card, not a single one, right? And there's a lot of reasons for this that we can pinpoint and point to. Cost is going to be the biggest one. There's a rumor, and again, I don't want to say anything, confirmed, but there is a rumor that, these key cards are costing $15, $16 for the 64 gigabyte version, which is a ton. You combine that with Nintendo's cut of the game, you combine that with the physical cost. I mean, it's gonna erode a lot of
It's
profit.
astronomical because like the competitors, Xbox and PlayStation, like a Blu-ray disc and a box cost $1 manufacturing. So these that's like 16 times the amount, and it could probably go up to 20 if we saw bigger carts or had like better boxes or something. Like,
Yeah,
and that's is this why we're getting $80 games in some cases? Because these cartridges, bro, like that's such a high cost.
yeah, it's bad, and I mean, truthfully, here's kind of where stuff comes into play, right? Unfortunately, and I think this is the thing that people don't realize that's bad about these, right? So this basically just acts as your, it's the same thing on PS5, right? You download the game to your console and, it acts as the DRM check to let you play it. But again, there's a resale factor and stuff, which is good. You still have a physical, which is good. But the problem becomes when you look at how much space Switch 2 has. And Switch 2 has 256 gigabytes of internal storage. Street Fighter 6 is 60 gigabytes. And Yakuza 0 Director's Cut is like 47. So that right there is 100. That's all. That's over almost over half of your storage gone. Take Mario Kart World. Take Mario Kart World, which is like 24 gigabytes. Boom. That's half of your storage completely gone. Like you're only going to be able to have maybe 4 or 5 third-party games,
And
considering the game sizes.
this is completely disregarding like future updates, DLC, and then just like the actual OS size on the 256.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where my biggest problem comes in with it is it's like, the whole point of buying physical on Switch is so I can just go in, A, I own the game, but B, I just slot the card in, boop, I have it, but no worries at all, and I just get to play. I don't have to worry about downloading anything. It's instant. Granted, there's usually updates and stuff, but it's just seamless, and that's going to be completely gone now with these game key cards, and you're going to have to download all this stuff, and that's taking up your internal storage, which was never a thing with regular cards. And we're going to see a couple publishers, as we've already seen, adopt this, regular carts like Nintendo. All their first party games are going to be standard cartridges, but it's just very, very, very concerning in my opinion. And I think so many people don't realize, 256 gigabytes of storage is nothing when you consider the fact that all these games are going to be 50 gigabytes plus.
And, people like to always go on about, oh, Nintendo games are so small, but there's reasons for it. Even a behemoth like Xenoblade X, you can look at like the textures and all that, and yeah, you get why that's like in the 20 gig range. And Mario Kart's the same way. And, PS4 had plenty of like 30 gig games that were huge adventures. Dragon Quest 11, Trials of Mana, all those games fall into like that size range. So Nintendo has art styles much like those, a lot more anime, less photorealistic. So of course their games are smaller in size typically. But now we're seeing, even Street Fighter 6 with a little less photorealism, still 60 gigs on Switch 2.
Gosh.
Like, and like look at the Oblivion remaster that just came out. Even if it's a bit smaller, if it gets a Switch 2 port, that game's still 125 gigabytes. You're not
Yep.
going to squeeze it down that much.
I mean, what is Rebirth going to be? There's no way. I'm sorry, not even Rebirth. Remake. There's no way that Remake is going to fit on a cart. It's going to be a game
Because
key cart.
even on PS4, like,
It's 100 gigabytes.
yeah, it's like 90 gigs. And even though, like, even looking at the PS5 version where it's like 87 if you include episode intermission, like, dude, that means the textures and all that weren't that much more compressed. Like, that's still absurdly high quality. Like, it's still going to be like probably like 60, 70, 80 gigs on Switch too.
Yep. I mean, it's a huge problem, dude.
And this just spells trouble for third parties, especially because yeah, not all these things that are going to get ported to the Switch 2 can get a file size as small as a Nintendo game or like a JRPG can. Because gosh, how big are like things like the new Maddens and stuff? Like
Oh my
the new
god.
college football, like how
So,
big are those?
to be fair, college football on PS5 was only like 29 gigabytes or something like that. I was really surprised.
Okay, so let's look at the average like gamer. They're gonna have like their couple sports games and stuff that they'll want. So like let's say, new college football Switch 2, where we already have like football games confirmed. So they'll probably fall into that PS5 range because of, faster memory and new compression techniques. So it's still gonna be like 30, 40 gigs. So that's already one game that a lot of people are going to just always have on their Switch too. And if they like baseball or basketball, boom, you're already taking up 100 gigs just for the sports games you play on the regular. Then there's Mario Kart, and then there's whatever else. Like you already have half of your internal storage taken up by just things you play on the regular.
Yep.
So what happens if like, you have like, oh yeah, I have my college football, my NBA 2K, but now I want to play FF7 remake. Well, there goes another 80 gigs on my Switch and I have barely anything left.
I know. Well, and that's the thing I think that people don't take into account. It's like, uh, look, they have the SD card slot, right? Express, micro SD Express. Those are expensive cards, right? I mean, the 1 terabyte's like 179. I got the 512 gigabyte one for like $90. But the issue is it's like, okay, great. So at this point, I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna smile with a big smile on my face, and I'm going to have a total of 768 gigabytes on my Switch 2. That is not enough. I mean, that is really not enough. If you're playing, like, again, I totally agree with you. Let's take, no offense, but the casual market, right? And you're forgetting a big game that's coming this
And
year.
and throw Fortnite on that. Like
So, ready? Here
Fortnite's
we go.
like 80
For
gigs now.
at least, and remember, the textures on Switch 2, as we've seen, Yakuza 0 is 47 gigabytes. I think these games are going to be fat. So we have Fortnite, 80 gigs probably. Let's say Madden, let's say 30 to 40, right? So there you go, 120 or whatever. Then you have, get ready for it, Mario Kart, right? 25 gigabytes. You have here's the big one, here's the kicker. Call of Duty coming to Switch later this year as
Yep.
confirmed by that law agreement, right? That contract. So that's another at least 100 gigabytes gone. Then let's say you have so at this point you can't that's your base Switch. You can't fit anything else. That's 3 games we just or 4 games we listed. Then let's say okay, yeah, I want to play FF7 remake. Okay, that's another 100, let's just say. I mean, it's like this is not enough space for the size of these games. Like I hated PS5. I actually ended up getting a huge SSD for my PS5. And I'll be for real. I'll be 100% honest with everyone. I know a lot of people complained about the 1 terabyte thing. I had Rebirth and Remake permanently installed for so long, and Kingdom Hearts 1.5, 2.5 is my permanent installs, quote unquote. And I never had any issue with 1 terabyte, but 256 gigabytes is a much different story. It is.
Because 256, that's literally just that's a less than the games that you said you keep permanently installed. That's less. Cause like, bro, and the game key card issue exasperates this because it's like, oh well, normally, on Switch 2, or well, Switch 1, jeez. But on Switch 1, I could just plug in this cart, and even if there's an update, it's gonna be like a few megabytes or a couple gigs. Like even Xenoblade 2, like all of its update files are like less than 9 gigs or something. So I can just plug in Xenoblade 2 and like if I don't have any of the DLC, there's not gonna be really much I'm gonna have to download or anything. I can just pop it in and play. But like let's say a Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition happens and it was on a game key card, which I doubt it will, because that this is Nintendo. But all these third parties, they're not gonna want to shell out, a third of their possible profits, possibly off of, a game sale just to cover the cost. So they're gonna throw these on game key cards and eat up a really limited resource on the Switch too, the memory. So where does that leave most people? Because we just, explained most people are gonna, want to play Fortnite and Madden and other stuff. And that's already gonna eat up like 200 gigs on their Switch too, just right out of the gate. So like, man, I really want Street Fighter. Well, that's 60 gigs and I have 200 taken up. And it's only on a game key card.
Yeah.
That just leaves consumers in a tricky spot. And then micro SD card express, that's pretty new. And like, yeah, it's impressive and it's going to get cheaper over time cuz the PS5 came out and SSDs like NVMe's were more expensive around that time, but they drop in price as they're out on the market. So it'll get cheaper, but right now we need a solution. And you got like you just said you shelled out like $100 to get 500 gigs. Like it's just not this is just not a fun process early into the console's lifespan.
No. It's really concerning, and I just really hope that, they're able to correct course later on once game cart prices come down. But overall, I mean, I just am sitting here like I can't help but be disappointed by what I'm seeing right now. As someone who has like over 80 physicals, like I just really can't help but be disappointed, you know?
And like I have a ton of physicals for my Switch as well. And just the real kicker in all this is like, some of these I can understand why it could be a game key card, especially early on with these manufacturing issues that, could be real, could be not. But bottom line, like we know those cartridges are gonna be expensive because even Switch One ones were more expensive to manufacture. So we're getting uglier boxes and having to eat up a very limited and expensive resource on the Switch 2. It just the more that keeps happening, because everyone was really excited for this platform, and a lot of people still are. I'm still excited for it, and I know I'm going
Mhm.
to enjoy having a Switch 2 and experiencing new and old games alike. However, it just seems something that should have been like a really sweet like victory for just the fans of Nintendo and the Switch platform. It just keeps getting a little more bitter every bite you take, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think that's a very, very fair assessment of what's reality. And I will say, I do think that there is a future that this gets resolved, and this is just something that goes on for the first part of the console's life. Because I will say, so one of the best, companies out there for physical games is Video Games Plus, based out of Canada. They have led so many, numerous, countless reprints of different games for Switch and all kinds of other platforms, and they tweeted out today, like, this like whole tweet about like hypothetical scenario, like, we should reach out to publishers and have them reprint their games for them, but have actual cartridges instead of game key cards. And that garnered a lot of attention. And I do think that that's something that could happen, but it's just so stupid. Like, we shouldn't have to do that, you know?
The thing is that even be fine with like maybe even like a weird choice, like oh, like let's say you could buy Bravely Default HD on a game key card for like $40, but for $50 you can get it on like a normal cart with the game on it. And
Right.
the thing about Team Asano games is that a lot of them don't even get updated because they're just feature complete and just stable, you know? Bravely Default 2 didn't get a single update on the Switch, and it could have that was a game that could have even used them, but it didn't. So that means my cartridge of Bravely Default 2 will always have that complete experience. But the same can't be said with the game key card of Bravely Default HD cuz we'll have to really because we'll only know how like the true end of the game key card in the far flung future because they could just keep the same eShop, until we're all dust on this earth. But what if that's not the case? Like Sony's already tried to shut down the PlayStation 3 and Vita parts of the PSN. I mean, luckily, fan outcry prevented that, but just having your games possibly be held hostage as a consumer who we all go to work and earn this hard earned money and sometimes we decide to treat ourselves and get a game and having it possibly be wrenched from you and who knows how many years, that's not a good concern to have.
No.
And game key cards are pushing us towards this digital future that I just don't think I want to be any part of.
I mean, yeah, it really sucks, man. Because it's like, I want to get Bravely Default. I want to get Street Fighter 6. I want to get so many games for Switch 2 physically, but I cannot bring myself to the table to be like, yeah. And also, like, this is separate from this. These prices that these companies are charging are outrageous. Like, I'm sorry, Yakuza 0 with 20 minutes of new cutscenes and a new PvE mode for $50 is insane. I'm sorry. Like, I don't Sega has always been on one with pricing. They just have been. I don't care. Disagree with me if you want. I don't know what the heck justified a $50 release of Yakuza 0? And it's not even a key. If it was $50 and it came with an actual physical, I'd pay for it. Absolutely. $50 with a game key cart, miss me. Bye.
Yeah, and it's always going on sale and it's like $20 on every other platform. And the new content is essentially stuff you can just YouTube. $50, bruh, for a card with like 1 megabyte of data on it, if even that.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally just a little DRM thing. Like, yep, it's real. Play it. You know what's going to be really interesting, and like, I'm not saying this to promote one way or the other, but there are tools on Nintendo Switch that people have created that are cartridges that get inserted in, emulate games, essentially pirate games. So I'm really interested if that technology with the key cart thing is going to be emulated with that kind of development, because that's something that was on Switch that people did do. But I mean, I don't know. It's just
I'd
You
figure
know,
if the Switch 2 is cracked in any way, it's gonna be because of these game key cards, and half
yeah.
the reason is gonna be because of karma.
Oh, for sure. I mean, dude, I will say it's gonna be really funny if there's an exploit found for Switch again. It's gonna be so funny. I'm sorry. I mean, dude, this is something that Nintendo knows. Nintendo knows to the point that they refuse to work with anyone that does not have a newer Switch model.
For real?
That's something that I've been told before that goes into the thing. Like if you not necessarily for like if you're, reviewing a game per se, but like I think if they send you something like confidentially, like let's say that people, the people who get let's say oh my gosh. Let's just say Mario Kart World came to Switch, right? The people who review Mario Kart World before launch, they have to have a new Switch if it was on Switch. They can't have the original one because that could potentially lead to exploits and that could lead to the game being dumped and stuff.
And I mean, honestly, that's probably what's happened a lot because think about how many Switch games the past couple years, especially, have just been dumped like a week or two before release.
Yep.
It happened with Pokemon, it happened with both of the new Zeldas.
Oh, dude,
So,
the Zelda was bad, man. That was bad. I went dark.
I mean, that's that's the only thing you can do,
It
especially.
happened with Xenoblade. Well, that was Street Date leak, but Xenoblade got leaked. X did.
Oh yeah, yeah. But dude, these game key cards, half of it, like I said, I think will be karma because I think people will just be searching to exploit these things, like intentionally, just because of what they represent.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I just, I don't know. I really hope that Nintendo and more specifically third-party developers are looking at the commentary online about these carts because I don't know. I saw that Sega tweeted about Yakuza 0 being up for pre-order in the entire comment section. Not one was positive. Everyone was saying, "Why is this a game key cart? Why is this a game key cart?" And that's good. We should keep up the pressure because that's the only way that things are going to get changed. But honestly, I'm so sorry. These are $1 million and $1 billion corporations. They can afford a $16 cart. I don't care. Like, I'm sorry.
And this is like a thing that's not going to be expensive forever. So,
Mm-mm.
so many companies took a gamble on the Switch because Nintendo looked pretty dire because, the 3DS had recovered, but it was still not like DS level. And the Wii U was a flop. And, but people hedged their bets on the Switch, and look what happened. It paid off. Like, think about how crazy. Like, the Switch probably has like some of the craziest physical collectors out there outside of retro games. Just to be clear, like so many limited run things, just geez, it was crazy. But now with these game cards, game key cards, you're really destroying a community you kind of created and fostered because
Yep.
people hedged their bets on the Switch and then it exploded and everyone was putting stuff on. So you're telling me companies like Sega and Capcom can't just be like, well, with how things go, things become cheaper to manufacture. So let's just start off strong with good impressions and eat this for like a year.
Yeah.
But we're not even getting that type of respect from these companies as their consumers.
No. And again, I'm not saying we're not sitting here saying that this technology is new and oh crazy, it's so terrible, it's never happened in the industry before. It's a lot what, Sony has with PlayStation. But I think the thing that you have to remember is that the Switch is a portable console, right? If you buy a new game, you just want to be able to inject it to the Switch and play. You don't want to have to download stuff for it, right? That's a pain. And it's just one of those things where, again, you hit it right on the nail. Nintendo was king of physical. They proved with Switch that this is a community that, I mean, there's so many communities online of people who collect Switch games, and I can't even tell you the amount of like, limited run games where,
You can go on
it's
Google
crazy.
right now and just type in like Switch physical collection, and you're going to see probably hundreds of thousands of unique images. Like this wasn't just some niche thing. You can hop on Twitter and probably just type in Switch and probably just see people posting their collections. Like this wasn't just some little niche community like, "Oh, we're getting physical Switch games." Like this was a huge part. Like any YouTuber that does Nintendo content, I guarantee in the background they have like a shelf with like 100 Switch games.
Yeah, yeah,
Like this is the Nintendo community. And also just,
absolutely.
once again, as like the family and platform that focuses on like kids and younger audiences, especially, how many kids are gonna really know how to fiddle with these game key cards or understands them? Because, gosh, imagine just giving like little Timmy, like, oh, he likes, like, oh, maybe his big brother got him into fighting games. Let's get him Street Fighter 6 on Switch 2. But he also has Fortnite. But he also has Rocket League. But he also has all these other games that kids love and play. And then Street Fighter 6, like, oh, like a 60 gig download, like you're giving kids like this stuff that they can't fully comprehend without researching. And that's not even getting into like limited internet because like you said, these are portable consoles. What if I just wanted to go out to like Walmart, pick up a game and put it in my car? Even I should be able to play this in the Walmart parking lot if I want to, but no, I have to download it.
Yeah, yeah, man, and I know the Steam Deck fans out there, the biggest community on earth. I am gonna make fun of you for a minute.
Look, Steam Deck people, the
No, no,
Switch
no.
has more pre-orders
Than you ever sold, exactly. No, I wanna make it clear.
sales.
It needs to be made clear. Steam Deck has sold like 4 million units. The Switch 2's already outsold that. I don't want to hear it. Like, go cry me a river. I don't want to hear it. You guys are a very, very niche community, and that's not discrediting the device. But I see a lot of Steam Deck talk online of blah 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 blah. The Steam Deck is not even close to the Switch 2 or the Switch. I mean, I'm sorry. The Switch has outsold the Steam Deck by 145 million units at least. Like, let's be real.
And let's not even bring up software sales.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look at the adoption rate of most of Nintendo's first party games. It's like Mario Kart has like it's almost 50% of people who own a Switch have Mario Kart.
Yeah, and the same goes for like what 30% of Switch owners have like Animal Crossing and all this other stuff.
Yep.
Like, bro,
I mean, it just is what it is. And honestly, again, I think it's really funny that people were so determined online that the pricing was going to make this another quote unquote Wii U situation. I mean, anyone saying this was a Wii U situation, you just proved to me that you're uneducated. I'm
like the
sorry.
Wii U had so many other things that made it a flop.
I,
Like
I
it
mean,
was it
yeah,
was outdated hardware when it came out yet again. Like it was way slower than even like the PS3 or Xbox 360, and then it didn't have great branding or advertising, which
yeah.
that's not none of that is an issue with the Nintendo of today.
Nope. I mean, it is something that I think that people just needed to come to terms with because, yeah, I mean, like, take a step back, look at the reality of things. The Wii U and the Switch 2 could not be any more different. Absolutely not. I mean, you're following up a console with 150 million units. What did everyone ask for with the Switch? We want a more powerful Switch. We want a more powerful Switch. And Nintendo has delivered, and the software looks incredible, and you have third party support on par with everyone else in the industry. I think it's going to do well. It's going to hit over 20 million units sold its first year, at least.
Yeah, and just man, just thinking back on how we were talking about these game key cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like personally, I grew up with very limited internet access because rural Southern America. You know how it gets. Nothing like being 7 miles from civilization and having satellite internet. So I know this is these days a smaller percentage of the population, but people like that still play games. Some people
Yeah.
don't have a home internet in some places of America or like unreliable internet. And I get that's not as much of an issue in some other places around the world, but there's going to be places everywhere you go that play games but don't have this internet access or have data caps. Like, I'm not gonna be able to, depending who I am, just sit and download a 60 to 100 gigabyte game because I bought it physically and was hoping it this ties into so many things with kids, gift giving, like living conditions. It's just kind of a mess. And even compared to like, there's PlayStation discs that act as DRM. But even without internet, you can still get by because the game data is on those discs, and you can play things without connecting to the internet at all times. Like I don't know the exact like mechanics of it because there's been times where, oh no, my internet went out. I put in a game and it says I can't play it, but then it lets another game work. So there's it's just weirdness. Like, and you're telling me Nintendo's not going to have the same problems with some of that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just really, it really is just a crappy situation that's super frustrating, man. I continue to go back and forth on it in my head of like, is this even fixable? I mean, I don't know. I really don't know because my worry is once these publishers adopt this and realize that, okay, wait, hey, instead of paying for physicals, we can save and they're dirt cheap now compared to what they were on Switch. It's like, I don't know if there's gonna be an incentive to go back, and that's gonna just be so concerning.
And that creates two distinct futures in my mind with you saying that. So like earlier you're like, well, we can hope that, as costs go down and with, initiatives like that Canadian like company you were talking about, offering or considering doing like full on physical releases of stuff. That'd be the best future. The costs get down, we get some reprints, or we just get fewer game key cards, and that's reserved for either astronomically huge games or like, smaller indie type things for them to break into the gaming market. But here's the other future. I just I don't see this happening, but if they for real just stick to, oh, we'll just keep doing this to keep costs low. Even if cards got like a 64 gig card got cheaper or Nintendo offered bigger cards, why does it matter when we can just pay like the couple dollars on this and they just download it? It's no skin off these companies' nose, and seeing the death of physical in my lifetime is not something I want to live through.
No, me either. I mean, dude, it's like I tell people all the time, and I get some flack from it from my friends. I mean, now granted, my friends around here, I mean, they love me because they're always like, "Yo, can I borrow X game?" I'm like, "Sure," and I hand them out, which it's fine. I don't mind that. But it's like, man, it's like I've got like over 200 or 300 physical games in total, and I would say probably, and it's like I really like that, and it's like, even if, I have games on my shelf I've never played, absolutely, I mean, I'm sure we all do, and even if I don't play it, it's just the ability to see it there on my shelf as part of my collection, knowing that I own it, right? I have that game, it's here, it's mine. It's not this, like, digital thing I have to download, and I get it, digital is convenient, I mean, look, you're talking to a guy who, I picked up Mario Kart 8 Deluxe physically, I picked up Smash physically. I gotta swap out those carts, and if I'm playing multiplayer night, I gotta swap everything out, right? And it's sometimes it gets, annoying, but I'd rather do that than have it physically. I see it, I have it, I own it. I can lend it if I need to. It's no big deal. But this situation is just so concerning, man. It just I just don't know. I just don't know what's gonna happen, and that's the scary part.
And the only way this will keep is if Nintendo continues their forward compatibility with like a Switch 3 or a new platform that's backwards compatible with Switch 1 and 2. And even in that case, like I mentioned earlier, even though, the PlayStation Network's interconnected, they still tried to shut down PS3 and PS Vita storefronts. So forward
Yeah.
compatibility might not even save us in that regard. Because, gosh, just thinking how in what if in 10 years they're like, okay, we're not doing Switch 3, we're doing something else. And 5 years after that, they're like, we're shutting down like the Switch eShops. Well, me as a big Square Enix fan, I love Bravely Default. How am I gonna play this HD version now? I had to like, what if I had to delete it? Like, this just and we get like Noah and I both understand a lot of this is future talk, but we can't get the past back. We're living in the now. What else do we have to look forward to? I'd rather not have to look forward to a dim and dark future. Like, I
Yeah.
want to be able to play. I guess that'd be ironic. I guess if that happened to Bravely Default HD, you know what I'd be doing? I'd be cracking open my 3DS that still works and putting in the cartridge of the original game with the full game on it.
I mean, yeah, but we can't do that.
Nope. So, Switch 2 is both the future of Nintendo and the future question mark of Nintendo. Like, all we can do is speculate.
Ah, man, I it's grim. It feels very grim talking about this stuff, and I'm hoping that I'm hoping that we're wrong. Like, I wanna be wrong, and I wanna see by June companies either changing or talking, at least addressing the situation, because that's the thing, there's just so much we don't know. And, again, there's so many factors, there's so much we don't know. I mean, who the heck knows what's gonna happen going forward? I mean, again, all we can do is just kinda talk about it and share our thoughts, and I think, if you're someone who buys physical, like us, you care about buying games, you care about owning them, like, we poked fun at the whole boycott thing, not that people were wrong for doing it, just that Nintendo wasn't going to listen. However, this is an entirely different situation where people will actually listen. If physical copies of game key cards, if we refuse to buy those, that's gonna send a message. And, continuing to, you know, encourage talks with companies like, VGP and all these companies that make, actual cartridges, and just sharing your thoughts on the fact that we don't want key carts, we want real carts with companies on, social media. I think that's gonna do really good of pushing things forward overall for what our hopes for physical are for the future.
Yeah, and that's really all we got. Like, we really can speak with our wallets. And I know some people are gonna want to bring up, like, yeah, we did poke fun at the boycott, like, quote unquote culture. And we can already see that, oh, well, like Mario Kart World is like selling out pre-orders and stuff. Like, that page is just destroyed on like Best Buy. Like, you just can't get that. And that's outside of just the pre-order like Switch with Mario Kart World bundle. So people are going to buy the games they want, but that also has the advantage of having the game on the cart. Like, it's gonna be interesting to see the ramifications of the game key card. Like, I wonder if surely they'll have like separate sales. Like, hmm.
I think that these companies are gonna treat game key carts as just regular physicals. That's what they are. They're not I don't see them being any discounted any further than normal games. I think that they're gonna treat them exactly as they are. I mean, there's a reason that they're priced the exact same as the digital versions, right? And so I just, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it's gonna happen.
And I still like the idea of like maybe game key card cheaper, pay more for like bigger cart and have the game. But I just kind of don't see that happening. Are companies going to be willing to put out extra SKUs? Because like the thing is, y- they're definitely hearing our voices. Because like you can hop on any Nintendo Switch 2 thing, on any social media, any video site, just anything, and it's just an endless wave of grousing. So they've definitely heard us and will continue to. But it's going to be interesting to see how they respond because it it's probably not going to be likely that they change too much before launch day or even right after launch. They're going to be like, okay, they're complaining now. Let's see what the consumers want. They'll take note of it, but they might not act until they really see like the sales numbers for this stuff. So we legit might not see changes to anything regarding game key cards or like just Switch 2 stuff until end of the year or even next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's just gonna depend on when the prices for physical carts are gonna go down, and that's just something that we don't know. I mean, they were expensive for a point with the regular Switch, but we never experienced anything like this with Switch.
No, like this truly is next level. Like truly. And it's just this constant embitterment on things that keep coming out. Like, I don't know how much more we can say about the game key card stuff. Like, we'll probably have more to say as more comes out and as we see things happening in real time. Like, come June, we could be like, okay, maybe they're not that bad, and some companies have released some statements and stuff. Or we could be sitting in the same spot next year being like, dude, these game key cards can go right in the trash. Like, this is the tricky part of us like looking at this and not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But I do think, game key carts is going to be a topic we'll be talking about for the foreseeable future, just because, we continue to see these releases get announced and game key cart, and it just keeps happening. And so I think we'll be talking about it for a while. I will say though, I'm really at least glad in the sense that Nintendo is prioritizing legitimate physicals for now.
Yeah, like, huh. Uh, that's a question. What do you think the first, like, Nintendo first or second party game will be on a game key card? What could possibly be like the first game that they just go, yeah, this first party game isn't
Anything really
entirely on
small.
cart?
Like, which makes me upset because, like, okay, so example of a release I'm thinking of, MEO Smiling Man, right? That to me would have been a game key cart release because it was $50. It wasn't a full price game. And that's concerning because like I love that game and I think the smaller games often are the ones that people want to keep, right? And I also think I mean maybe I'm wrong on this cuz Mario Kart had no issue with this. But maybe they look at doing game key cart for something like Splatoon, which is going to receive a bunch of updates, right? I mean, I don't know. I
Oh,
would hope that they just do cartridges all across the board, all on cart, no problem. I think that that's the most likely scenario to be truthful. I don't think that they're going to do game key carts. I think that was for third parties only. Um, but if they do it, I think that you're going to see it with smaller games.
I think that's a fair assessment, honestly, because it's like, oh well, even like, what's do we even know what the lowest these current cards are gonna go? I'd probably
We,
say like 2 or 4 gigs.
so we don't know, but the rumor has been that there is like, and again, I don't know how truthful any of this is, so I don't want to say this stuff as if it's fact, right? But there is a rumor, at least going around that I read about a couple days ago, that there are really the only key card or the only game key that's available is the 64 gigabytes one. That is
Jeez.
that is 16 gigabytes. Because and the reason that I think that that's the case is because so like Room Factory, right? That's a 20 gigabyte game on a 64 gigabyte game key or on a 64 gigabyte cart. Um and so it's like Switch 1, right? Switch 1 had 2 gigabyte, 4 gigabyte, 8 gigabyte, 16 gigabyte, and 32 gigabyte cartridges, right? That's a
Yeah.
lot of variety. But the rumor is like apparently it's like the tiny cartridge for the game key carts, right? Or it's a 64 gigabyte one, and that's it. And I think
Bruh.
that's gonna be the issue, right? And I will say that I think that Nintendo needs to take initiative and create, in my mind, 16 and 32 gigabyte cards because I think that solves a lot of the problems. But again, I feel like that it's not going to matter because these publishers are going to want to cheap out, right? I mean, why would you pay the more expensive one and cut into your profit because everything's about profit if you could get a cheaper way to do it.
Just man. And just speaking of like price stuff, like you know, America and our tariffs and stuff. I'm getting emails from Good Smile saying all future pre-orders will not be available and there's going to be shipping problems and stuff being withheld. So we got that going on. But that also means like, so Nintendo announced that they're raising the prices on a few like accessories and stuff. And it's not like by obscene amounts. But man, I just think so much is going on right now that's also just poisoning the well for the Switch 2. Like this is one of the most unfortunate like release windows of all time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really sucks because, I mean, there's so much going for the Switch 2, but there's also you just cannot ignore all the negativity around it.
It's the problem is that it's permeated like we've talked about the misinformation and it's permeated like I'll just have people at work talk about oh like yeah look at these $90 games and it's like no that's not what they are where we live. And this is only going to just get worse cuz like you know I've barely been on social media like today like the day we're recording this and I've already seen people complaining about the game keycard stuff and it seems like almost anytime I see something regarding the Switch 2, it's just grousing and cynicism, which I understand we've expressed a lot of that ourselves, but Noah and I are both in the boat of the Switch 2 is a great like piece of hardware. There's going to be amazing games on it. It's just that it has like like a snake, not a snake oil, but it has just like that film on it where when you touch it, you're just like, there's just some ickiness to the Switch 2 situation, but we're both excited for this hardware, excited for these games.
I mean, I pre-ordered it.
I mean, yeah,
Like I yeah, no,
and I
I'm
tried to pre-order it.
right. I'm so thrilled about the Switch 2, but I just really, really want them to correct this stuff. Because, like, I'll be honest, like, look, and I know, whatever. The $80 thing we've already talked about. Nintendo's charging it because they can. 3D Mario, Mario Kart, Zelda, their big, big, big IPs are going to be $80. Too bad, cry about it. I'm not saying this that I feel this way, but I'm saying that's what Nintendo's saying, right? Too bad, cry about it, they're $80. That's what Nintendo's saying. And they're not going to change that. And the sooner you accept it, the better. It sucks. It's a crappy situation. And I really don't like it, but it is just the reality of what we're doing right now. That's something that I think over time, and again, I don't want to say that we're going to get accustomed to this, right? But I am speaking in reality. Mario Kart World is going to sell millions and millions and millions of units. It'll probably sell like 10 million units in the first month, right? It's going to sell a crap ton of copies and no one's going to be able to do anything about it. No boycotts are going to matter. And I'm not saying this is okay, but it's just reality, man.
And it's
Like
probably already
FOMO.
sold half of
Yeah,
that.
no, exactly. It's like I can't sit here and tell you that like yes, like we're Mario Kart is not going to sell what it's going to sell because it is. And so when I say this, I'm not saying this is like oh get over it, but I am saying that I think this $80 price tag for Mario Kart is not something that people are going to be hinging on, a year into the console's life. I don't. I genuinely don't because I don't think the $80 games are the normal. But I will say this game keycard stuff is way more offensive to me. The
Yeah,
$80 thing is crazy. It's insane, but I'm not surprised. It's Nintendo. These are the same it's the same company that
and
charged $70 for Tears of the Kingdom.
it's
They
also
knew
just
they
hard to
could.
be surprised because that's sadly just where the gaming market's going, and that's just Nintendo following the market. And the
Uh,
only
but
way,
but even then,
well,
dude, it's like
that and their
Nintendo did
quality.
so good. They did so good. Switch 1 was like the king of physical collecting. So to go from that to this is just it really does feel super disrespectful to the people who supported the Switch 1 so much and bought hundreds of games, you know?
Like this, none of this is the end of the world. Like I'm sure there will be some improvements in some ways, and probably nothing good coming out of it. It's going to be a mix of both because that's just, ultimately how things play out. Where
Right.
like we've discussed thoroughly like situations where the game key cards are beneficial. You know, something like FF7 Rebirth, as much as I'd love for them to just like, yeah, we're putting two cartridges in a box.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's probably not going to happen. But that makes sense. This is a big epic game that many people that when they're done with it or have completed it, will be satisfied and be able to uninstall it. But
Dude.
geez, when you combine that with, like we've said, just this thing, we got to keep in mind this thing is, over the PS4 in terms of power. This is like a baby PS5, a portable Xbox Series S. These are like 4K games with huge file sizes, and even Nintendo's games are going to start getting bigger, is what I believe. Like if the
We're already seeing it.
what if the next Zelda adopts, something more like a Twilight Princess art style? They're going to be shooting for 4K, and no matter which way you slice it, no matter what new data compression techniques come out, that's going to be big. 4K is going to be huge no matter what. So if they want to make any kind of game with like a certain level of detail, it's going to balloon in size. Just no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
and
just Nintendo.
no.
These third parties already have huge games.
Right. But this is the thing that I think people don't realize. Mario Kart World at 23.4 gigabytes is like the biggest game Nintendo has ever published in terms of space, file size. It's like that is by far the biggest game that they've ever published. So it's just mind boggling to think like what these games are going to be down the road with the space stuff. And here's the other thing that really makes me mad about game key cards. Doesn't even matter at all because Split Fiction went up for pre order day for Nintendo Switch. And guess what it is? It's a code in the box. It's not even a game key
What?
card. Yep.
What?
Yep.
Bro. No. No. We're
Yep.
doing this again, even though
No,
we have an alternative.
and it's like this is what I assumed was going to make the this was what I was assumed was going to fix that download and code stupid thing. But no, no. Apparently this is reality. So EA, of course, I guarantee you that Madden is the same. That they're just not going to do carts, which is so stupid.
Bruh.
But and this is my thing. You could sit here and be like, I don't mind the digital aspect. I don't mind that. Okay, well, you are going to mind when the eShop eventually shuts down and you have physical games that you can plug in and play, and you have game key cards that you plug in and you cannot even download from the eShop because it's shut down. And I don't care that you're going to claim, oh, it's X years away. I don't care how far away it is. That shouldn't be a thing, but it is.
Like we're gonna see people legit like when this eShop closure does someday come. Because like we've already established, even Sony with this their consolidated network has tried to shut down parts of it. And you think Nintendo's not going to do that after they shut down the 3DS and Wii U? No, they're going to scrimp and save those costs in 15 years' time. So that means we're going to have people like evacuating their game key cards. Just I got to download all of them. I got to buy micro SD cards and label them and have a binder and just have all my games. And then what
Yeah.
happens what happens when data rot starts to set in another 15, 20 years down the line?
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. You can open the Nintendo Today app and look at a 3D model of the high-speed HDMI cord. It's okay.
We'll all have like chips in our heads and we'll have like AR Nintendo Switch 2 emulators. Everyone will be dumping their games. No. And it shouldn't come to anything like that. Because one of the biggest problems the gaming industry is facing right now is conservation. We've lost
Right.
so many games to time, and the online era that we're in, like we were just talking about, like Forza and stuff being delisted. Like, bro, this is such an unstable future, and that's not something I want to invest in.
Nope. And, everyone can sit here and say what they want. But I mean, the only way that the digital only future changes is if consumers respond and stand up for themselves. And that starts with us.
Ugh. So, is this going to be another boycott culture thing, or are we going to actually band together and make our industry how we need it to be and how we want it? That's really the question. Are we going to be able to keep up, complaining in these comments and live streams and actually make a change for the better? Or is that just going to all fizzle out?
Yeah. I mean, that's the question, right? And I think that at the end of the day, I mean, you know, if you don't want game key cards, you should not be buying them. And I know that's hard. I know that's tough because it's like, okay, I either don't get the game or I get it digitally, which one is better? I really don't know.
Like,
Um,
really, the only advantage a game key card offers, if you're like planning to get that instead of a digital copy, is you can lend it out and you have a box on your shelf, but that box is like 10% uglier than all your other Switch 2 boxes.
yeah, with that dumb banner on the bottom. And also, like, I'll just be real for a second. I mentioned like, yeah, you can, resell or share your game key card. I really don't think there's going to be a big market for resale for these because it's a digital game. I don't why the people who are buying these, like, I feel like they would just buy the games digitally. And I feel like that's what Nintendo wants.
Yeah, they make more money off of that. Third parties make more money off of it. I wonder if like I highly this can't just be a ploy to push towards this digital future. I want to just think Nintendo did earnestly do this, but just messed it up, or just because Nintendo is a little behind in many ways. Like you can just look at the Nintendo Switch Online stuff and you can see interesting things they're doing, but it's still a little clunky. So it could just be a situation like that where they did try to push for this interesting thing with value, but just missed the mark. Or on the other hand, they're just like, oh yeah, we're having, $80 digital games and stuff. And a publisher's not going to complain about getting more money back from a digital sale. Because honestly, with a lot of the game keycard stuff, you know, there's really not enough advantages for me to want to get a game key card over just being like, oh, well, I'm at home. I can just drop $40 on Bravely Default and call it a day.
Yeah. Otherwise, you get a box with a crappy banner on the bottom. I feel like they did that on purpose.
Just no. I also just I wonder if this will work out for them. Like I don't see a way, like even if we stopped buying game key cards, are they still just going to release them? Like is it just going to always be like a pillar of like Switch 2 physical in quotes?
I mean, I don't know, man. It's such a crazy market right now, and it's like, obviously Japan had 2.2 million lottery requests for pre-ordering the Switch 2. I mean, this thing is going to be so
And
stupidly
that's
big.
just on the Nintendo storefront,
Right.
not even like the other retailers.
Right. It's
The Switch in
stupidly big.
Japan alone probably 4 or 5 million. Like, I honestly think they probably hit over that 3 million mark in Japan alone.
Oh, I mean,
It's like,
I bet that they sell a million units the first week on launch day.
yeah, and this is just pre-orders we're talking about.
But it's like you have that much demand, and to mess up something so crucial that a large portion of your fan base and, dedicated user base on Switch cares about is just very, very frustrating.
Dude, like legit like 1% of all Japanese people just about have like pre-ordered a Switch 2.
Which is insane. Yeah. I mean, people have no idea how big that console is going to be. And I'm telling you, I mean, It's things like these that I'm hoping get ironed out because that's what's standing in the way of making this a phenomenal device all around.
And it's really only us who can change the market. People say speak with your wallet all the time, but this is an opportunity to do it. You know, no and I have no complaints with many parts of the software and, hardware of the Switch 2, so I understand why that's selling out because I feel like most people who are enthusiastic about Nintendo or games are excited for, like, a new console experience, like, they're satisfied, and the pricing on, like, the console and, some of these games. Because also think about it, most people Nintendo is video games to them. Like,
Right.
they're the market leader. They're the market leader. That's video games to them. So they'll be willing to pay a little more for a Mario Kart because they'll probably think back and be like, well, I kind of did play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for 7 years straight. And a lot of these people who are like bought a Switch or, the Switch has like also raised a generation of kids. Think about that. So a lot of these teenagers and young adults now are going to be wanting the Switch too, and will be fine with paying that much for Mario Kart because that would probably been one of their favorite games. So it
Mhm.
works from that angle. But honestly, if they see dips in sales or enough complaints, we will see changes. Well, probably only to a certain degree because this is Nintendo.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
they did things with the 3DS, like the ambassador program and dropping the price. So we could probably just see this over time, but you got to keep it up. You got to keep being like, yeah, I like this software, but I'm unhappy with this about it because they do listen. Like you can find like all kinds of people from game companies that are just like, yeah, we listen, but then it's just up to a variety of factors whether or not that gets put into action, like if they're going to make any changes.
True to that, my friend. But I think overall, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this discussion on Switch Point episode 11. Let us know down below. What are your thoughts on game key carts? Are these, physical copies stuff that you're interested in buying, or are you completely out altogether because of the way that this has been handled by third parties? But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
And don't worry, we'll be working hard to try to make this podcast fit on a 64 gigabyte cart. Because
Don't worry.
I have like 10 in my wallet. You got another six, Noah? We can
Oh,
get
for
this
sure,
done.
for sure. We'll get it in. We'll catch
Anyway,
you later.
see you guys later.